We played 200 days of Stardew Valley, looking to join the 0.8% of 30 million players to reach perfection. Last time out, we completed all our goals, but this time we set out to try and hit level 10 in all skills, create a huge empire of wine, and make as much progress on all these different goals as we would eventually need to hit perfection. It's going to be a challenge, but let's go find out how we did. Day 101 started with some housekeeping. Kieran funneled through hundreds of letters he'd left unattended while sleeping at Matt's for the first 100 days, learning plenty of new recipes.
Why am I getting so many cooking recipes?
Kieran and I were the only ones to remember the wizard's birthday today, so we dropped him off a void essence before collecting my copper watering can from Clint's and heading to the night market early to help set up. Naturally, I'm sure you were expecting more of a productive start given the goal of perfection, but we'd just come back, so took it all in before 5 PM rolled around, and the rest joined me at the night market. Previously, Kieran had been left at the surface, but this time joined us in the submarine, where we spent the whole time fishing up blobfish, spookfish, and midnight squid as we were trying to complete our fishing collections, and that drew day 101 to a close. Day 102 brought the best luck possible, so as quick as we could, we took care of the farm chores and headed straight off to the skull caverns, dropping through holes and ladders, finding a prehistoric floor on floor 21 before continuing to drop down floors as around 2 AM rolled around. We had shockingly all made it down. No, I died on floor 62, leaving Joe, Matt, and Kieran to drop down to floor 80 before surfacing just in time to make it to bed, bringing home plenty of loot between the four of us. After dusting myself off from yesterday, I was taking a walk when this truck driver called me over, asking for a rabbit's foot and that he'd make it worth my while. So I followed this with no question or suspicion, and it paid off as he gave me a permanent luck increase, disproving the theory of stranger danger. Joe was in town too, but he was grabbing another special order. This time Gus was asking for a shit ton of eggs for his omelets, so we got to work on that, dropping him off 24 eggs straight away, and now we had to just collect 24 new ones from our chickens to complete the quest. Not bad. Matt was off to see Krobus again today, dropping him off a pumpkin before he found a stone Junimo statue near the community centre, before also giving that truck driver a second rabbit's foot. Kieran spent his day in the desert, deforesting his previously built tree farm, whilst also restocking it with new seeds, as we were going to need a lot of wood for our Keg Empire plans. So I joined him on this endeavour before returning to the farm, where a rather distressed Joe summoned Kieran to quickly harvest the first ancient fruit harvest we had completely forgot about. This meant we had now got enough ancient fruit to start producing wine, which would triple the profit to around 2,500 gold per bottle, so I understand Joe's urge to get this done. Like a gift from the gods, day 104 brought insane luck yet again. However, through pure willpower alone, we resisted the allure of the skull caverns, as there was too much to get done back on Fumble Farm. Firstly, it was Evelyn's birthday, so cue the bombardment of diamonds to her, which began with Matt bright and early. Then after some consideration, the tree farm was reimagined, as it was only producing 6 oak resin a week, and we needed way more to produce wine, as each keg required 1 oak resin. So Matt and Joe repurposed it, whilst I dropped my watering can at Clint's for its steel upgrade, before grabbing the 41 kegs that Kieran had already made using our current stock of oak resin, and ran them to the quarry, placing them down alongside the first batch of ancient fruit to be turned into wine, before accidentally interrupting this strange crystal ritual Emily was doing, which put us all out of commission for the rest of the day. Day 105 started with a request from Robin for 10 pieces of hardwood, so after Matt helped Willie with his crab problem, he speedrun through quests, giving Clint an iron bar, Marnie a piece of amaranth and a cave carrot, and then finally giving Robin her hardwood. Kieran dropped a diamond off to Haley, and Joe dropped his watering can off at Clint's, and then visited the raccoon's new house before we all headed to the skull caverns for a cheeky afternoon session. We couldn't resist it twice in 2 days, could we? I grabbed 80 staircases from the trader and actually opted to fish and chop trees instead, so they only managed to reach floor 34, and due to the lack of time, we all headed home and went to bed. With only a week left until the end of our first year on Fumble Farm, we still had things to do before spring, so I waited until Pam's hangover was gone and then headed to the desert, spending my whole day decimating the tree farm for wood and foraging XP, before replanting it and returning to study the calendar. I do work hard, as you can see. The same can't be said for Joe though, who did virtually nothing until 2 PM before heading to the skull caverns with Matt, both of them working on their combat XP to try and get level 10. Matt did stop by the bookseller in town before this, but didn't make a purchase today, leaving Kieran, who did help me in the desert chopping trees, but returned for a more important goal. He completed the revamped tree farm, stocking only oak trees, and made some tree fertilizer to speed up the growth process before turning in to end the day. Day 107 was Leah's birthday, so we kept up our worrying trend of queuing up outside her cabin to give her an array of gifts. Matt stuck around to speak to her about her toxic ex, but as he only had eyes for Krobus, he didn't quite understand her. Joe once again did his best best me impression, doing some little chores but mainly running around and heading to bed early. I, on the other hand, was actually being productive, crafting and adding to our keg empire by the quarry, before popping by Clint's for my steel watering can, before studying my hearts, which were improving at least. Kieran was polishing off his remaining quests that he could do today, gifting his way around the valley, before marvelling at his growing tree farm, and smelting his day away. Whilst getting my steps in, I bumped into the wizard by the train track, where I spotted the witch fly by before being instructed to speak to Krobus about a dark talisman, and after doing so, he opened a passage for me to explore. So I scrapped my way to the chest and acquired the dark talisman. Before leaving, I fished for a while, catching the slime jack, so I called it a night on an action-packed day for myself. As we awoke on day 108, it had slipped all of our minds that today was winter 24, the eve of the Feast of the Winter Star. So we all checked our letters to see who we had got for Secret Santa, some of us happier than others. Matt was scavenger hunting today, using his secret notes, finding a solid gold Mayor Lewis statue behind his house. It's a bit egotistical if you ask me. So he stole it before carrying on with his combat XP grinding. Kieran was back at Robin's today, commissioning a stable for the farm, before doing his jellies and popping to Krobus's to purchase a void egg, which he put in the incubator, and also completed Gus's famous omelette quest by collecting the 24 eggs. Joe was also hunting a mystery, coming across a batteryless lockbox, so he placed one inside, and what do you know, Mr. Key was back, tasking us with placing a rainbow shell up by the station. So he did this, and then he was tasked with placing 10 beets in Lewis's fridge. At the same time, I removed this blockage, allowing me and Joe to enter and teleport to a swamp area, learning that we couldn't pass. So we fished in protest, catching a void salmon. That henchman's a prick. It's kind of pissing me off how productive we've been for the past 2 days, as the scripts are getting lengthy. But Joe carried this on by donating a strange doll, an arrowhead, and a chipped amphora to the museum. And finally, Willie took me in the back of his shop, and my worry was replaced with excitement when he showed me his old boat. And luckily I had plans on fixing it, so we headed into Christmas Day with our minds full of excitement. The Feast of the Winter Star was here, but not before the witch decided to do this.
The witch!
Oh, we don't even need to buy a void egg.
Oh. Is she just going to turn one of our chickens?
You just spent 5k on that.
Making the void egg Kieran purchased pointless. 5,000 gold down the drain. Merry Christmas, I guess. Gus gave us a mini fridge, so not the end of the world though. We grabbed our gifts and headed into town, where the festivities were very high. I gave Emily a diamond, Joe gave Alex some shitty wine that he found in a corner somewhere, Kieran gave Vincent a singular grape, and Matt fueled Shane's drinking problem by gifting him beer. We then all received our gifts. Sebastian and Shane gave Kieran and Matt mushrooms, Joe got given the wine he gave Alex re-gifted to him by Jody, and I got cookies from Evelyn.
A tea set. Sick.
That's the best thing in the What?
Joking, I got cookies.
You fucking bastard.
So I definitely got given the best gift to end the first Feast of the Winter Star in the valley. Gus was on our doorstep this morning, gifting us a jukebox. Bit late, mate. Christmas was yesterday. So Matt took off to the travelling cart, which yielded nothing before he gave this bear some maple syrup. We then did the usual Q method and bombarded Clint with various metals for his birthday, before we all met in that swamp, and I handed the void mayonnaise, essentially bribing the guard, and it worked. So we entered the hut, finding the wizard's magic ink, before we teleported again, and I was tempted to change my appearance, but resisted, heading through again, this time landing at the wizard's tower. So we gave him his ink back and completed the quest. But we weren't finished, so we raced over to Willie's, fixing his boat with various parts we already had. And once that was done, we all headed to bed, excited for what would happen. Overnight with the parts, Willie and Robin worked hard, managing to fix the old boat and get it working again. But we had business to do first, mainly harvesting the first batch of ancient fruit wine and then replenishing them. Also adding more kegs bit by bit. Joe drew the short straw, and with spring around the corner, he was tasked with reorganizing our sprinkler layout to be more space efficient. So whilst he did that, we paid Willie 1,000 gold each and took off on his boat. We landed on Ginger Island, opting to fish for a while. I later broke off from the group, finding this golden walnut outside this hut, which I entered and fed it to this parrot, interacting with a guy called Leo for the first time. After a brief wiki visit, we learnt that there's a lot of these golden walnuts. So I chased this fire, finding a tent and a mountain mine shaft, which I entered briefly before it was time to come home to end day 111. Day 112 was the final day of our first year on Fumble Farm, but for us it was business as usual. I paved the quarry area, Kira named our new horse Dorito, which after finishing the sprinkler setup, Joe raced him around the valley before returning to add scarecrows to the farm. Kieran then calculated what we'd need to buy tomorrow before racing to Robin's to commission a deluxe coop upgrade. He then spent a shit ton of money on resources like wood, which would increase in price in the next year, so it was the last chance to buy it now. Matt was was riding Dorito around foraging, before continuing in the desert by chopping trees. I helped Kieran in calculating what we'd need before doing some leftover quests I had, which rounded out the first year, earning a cool 92,000 gold from our first wine harvest. A good start. On to spring we go. The first day of year 2 and the first day of spring. Time for the stress levels to go through the roof then. Today was simple. For perfection, we needed to ship 15 of most of the crops, so we would have to purchase everything we could. So with me, Joe and Matt solely hoeing the land, we rushed Ken out of the farm before Kieran started at Sandy's buying 75 rhubarbs. Then he was off to Pierre's where he purchased 109 cauliflower, 260 parsnips, 100 kale, 25 jazz, 75 garlic, 75 rice, 25 tulips, 250 potatoes and 75 bean starters to go along with his carrots and coffee. Then it was a race against time, planting, hoeing and more planting. Minutes turned to hours and luckily come nightfall we had planted everything we could. The goal wasn't profit in spring really, as we had ancient fruit. It was just to grow as much as we would need for perfection. Of course, we had to add to the madness early on day 114, planting even more potatoes to start the day. At the same time, Joe was at Clint's collecting his copper watering can whilst Matt was riding Dorito, until he stumbled upon Emily doing typical strange things. He then helped Leah grab this fruit. The ladies' man strikes again, but as I've said, he only has eyes for Krobus, so he visited him. Kieran extended his crystallarium shed for more rubies and jade, eventually completing the layout. Joe accepted a gift for George, tasking us with gifting Evelyn 12 leeks, so he raced around the valley hunting them down on Dorito, leaving me, and after helping Kieran, I did fuck all once again. Kieran started day 115 by doing a round of gifts, mainly to Haley, Abigail and Penny, before he studied the mountain of cooking we'd have to undertake, which was worrying to say the least. Matt finally took charge of the mess that was the layout of the farm buildings, organising it into this, leaving Kieran's hut surrounded by crops for aesthetic purposes. He also did some painting whilst there, before working on his fishing collection in the mines, joined by Kieran. Joe once again spent his day working on his combat in the desert, and I took off to Ginger Island, hunting more golden walnuts. I found a few in random spots before I headed to the forge, finding some more in there, as well as some cinder shards to end day 115. In the early hours of day 116, the abandoned Joja Mart building was struck by lightning, which was intriguing to say the least. Joe took off and found that the Junimos once again were requesting a bundle to be completed, and luckily we had all the items back at the farm. So Joe donated dinosaur mayo, a prismatic shard, an ancient fruit, a void salmon, and caviar to complete the lost bundle. Joe then spoke to this lost Junimo who promised something good would come to him soon, so he decided to spend his day with Clint cracking geodes. Due to good luck, Kieran and Matt headed to the Skull Caverns, utilising the 80 staircases we had to drop down deep, getting all the way to floor 154, finding tons of good loot along the way, which once again left me, and it was time for revenge. Way back in spring last year, the legend was unable to be caught, but this time I was ready. So I set up bright and early and vowed not to leave until I was victorious. I didn't get it, but I will be back. Overnight, the Junimos worked their magic, and when Joe visited the abandoned Joja Mart, it was now a full-blown movie theatre. So after seeing that, Joe popped into Gunther's, donating a fire opal and a hematite, getting us even closer to completion. He then picked our ancient fruit before I visited Willy to purchase some upgrades for my next encounter with the legend, before sitting down to ponder the upcoming battle. Joe decided to join me in pondering, and let me just tell you, he smells awful. Kieran also prepared for the legend fight, but he kept busy doing other farm chores, whereas Matt prepared by riding Dorito around and fishing in the mines. Tomorrow the rain would fall and we would once again have a chance to catch the infamous legend fish. Here we go then. The rain had arrived and nothing else mattered. I totemed to the mountain to maximize the time I had. Eventually we all arrived and the attempts were coming thick and fast, but this time we were all prepared, eating seafoam pudding and using attachments to aid in our efforts. So a few hours after starting, I was the first to strike, reeling it in, followed shortly after by Kieran.
You know what they say though, Joe. Long day for you too.
Then by Matt.
How have you all hooked it already?
And in a perfect world, I'd then say followed by Joe, but not today. And can I just say, this is extremely satisfying personally. Anyway, he sulked his way back home baitless and a failure. Whilst Matt and Kieran worked at the other fish in their collection still to be caught, I expanded our wine empire, adding more kegs as well as adding more stone paths to the layout for future expansion. What a fucking day. Day 119 was Mayor Lewis's birthday, so I waited on his doorstep to give him a coconut, joined by the others doing the same. Then me, Kieran and and Matt headed to Ginger Island, so we spent the day in the sun, fishing for any uncaught fish before tackling the Forge mineshaft, managing to find plenty of golden walnuts and plenty of enemies at the same time. But we pressed on, finding this dwarf. He sold some pretty cool stuff, but we were running out of time, so we kept going until we made it to the Forge, a place where we could enchant our tools and weapons, using 1 prismatic shard and 20 cinder shards per enchantment. So we pulled our shards together and Matt enchanted his sword, getting the Haymaker enchant, but time was up, so we rushed home and headed to bed. Not before Kieran found this ostrich egg randomly, so a result I guess. Oh, and you're probably wondering what happened to Joe today. He did have all day and night to try and catch the legend, and he didn't do it again. And I wish I could say this, but I can't stop smiling. It doesn't feel good, does it, Joe? Day 120 began with Kieran taking himself off to Clint's to pick up his brand new iridium axe. Then when he was passing through the valley, he bumped into Haley and a photo shoot commenced, so we'll have to leave them to it. Joe had a productive lazy day, if that makes sense. On one hand, he spent the whole day roaming around, but he did spend a lot of time foraging as well as raiding people's bins, so productive in a sense. And whilst we're here, the same goes for Matt, who also rode Dorito around the valley, foraging, solving hidden notes and chopping down trees. Kieran returned to the farm in an attempt to incubate the ostrich egg to limited success, and I spent my day doing a monumental task. The cooking collection was going to be a tough chore, needing certain items, so I started the painstaking process of making chests full of items we currently had, times by 4, so that in the end we would all have enough, and then I listed down what we didn't have to end the day. This continued into day 121, but early on we were all summoned to the lava floors of the mine, where we threw a strange doll into the lava, which gave us a faraway stone in return, and when Matt took it to the wizard's hut, this happened, giving him the useless but cool sword Meowmere. A strange start to the day. Even stranger was that the temptation came back as I locked eyes with this shrine, and it proved too much as I gave in to the consistent abuse I'd received about my hair. So when back from the hut, I positioned myself behind the bear and unveiled my new look to the boys.
Oh my god.
What is that, bro? Fuck me, that is horrible. I actually prefer you bald.
It wasn't quite the reaction I was looking for, so I carried on my shopping and collecting for the cooking collection, trying to erase from my mind the abuse I got. Kieran tested out his new axe all day and night in the desert, leaving Matt to jam away with Abigail in the rain. The ladies' man strikes again. Just to the right of the 2 lovebirds, Joe could hear music distantly as he tried once again to catch the legend fish, and I'm really enjoying the shoe being on the other foot for once, because the idiot didn't get it again. Day 122 was the birthday of Vincent, so we grabbed whatever love gifts we could find and gave them to him. Kieran then decided he was going to join in with the combat XP farming, this time crafting monster musk and heading to the skull caverns to grind the day away. Joe had been cozying up with Leah recently and ran into her during a phone call with her ex, freezing for about 5 minutes when she asked him a basic question. Not ideal for him. So he left and gifted George his 12 leeks completing the community quest, accepting the Pierre Prime product quest, tasking us with collecting 25 gold standard vegetables. Kieran got Robin to start upgrading his own house, meanwhile Matt was off at Ginger Island, and managed to get Leo to come down and speak, which was good progress. So he then proceeded to deforest the whole island before returning to end day 122. After 3 days straight of switching between the wiki and the game, calculating what we'd need and what we already had for the cooking collection, I was taking a day off, joining Kieran and Joe heading off to the skull caverns, where the monster musk really started to pay off as Kieran encountered about 20 bats at once. We spent the day dropping floors and killing whatever we could, reaching floor 46 and gathering plenty of loot. As Matt and the skull caverns don't exactly get along, he was over on Ginger Island. He didn't do too much though, opting to have a chill day in the rain fishing, catching plenty of clownfish before returning home to end day 123. We awoke today with news that the egg festival of the previous year was returning, meaning the competitiveness was back in full swing after last year's fraudulent result. You may be asking, why was it fraudulent? Let's get the day's business out of the way first and then I'll enlighten you. We literally all went to the skull caverns, nothing much to it, some holes and some loot. Now that's out of the way, let's talk about this fucker. Now whoever's editing this part, I'm sorry, but pull up the footage from last year's festival and bang, there it is. Look at Kieran's POV, normal right? Now look at mine, also normal. Now show Joe's fucking POV, blatant cheating. He can see everything. He should be banned from all future events and stripped of that straw hat in my opinion. If he wins this year, I'm not gonna be happy, I tell you that. With that over, let's get to the race then. Remember, the winner not only receives the coveted straw hat, but receives bragging rights for the year. So we arrived early to stretch and get get loose, whilst Kieran purchased 1,300 strawberries to plant back on the farm, and then it was time. We took our positions. I wasn't fucking around this time, so I let my hair flow for extra agility, and off we went. It was fast and furious until Joe fucking ruined it. He ran around using his fraudulent zoomed out camera and told me where the eggs were, souring my eventual victory.
Oh, he won.
Yay. As you can tell, I wasn't pleased, and we all sulked home after Joe tarnished the Egg Festival for a second year running. But third time's the charm though, right? Oh, and I also need to mention before the festival, we harvested and re-kegged our ancient fruit, earning 164,000 gold, so not a bad way to end the day. The morning after the Egg Festival was certainly frosty. However, the Desert Festival was coming to the valley tomorrow, which definitely took our minds off of yesterday's disaster. We had been letting all the crops on the farm just grow out, waiting specifically for today, so we spent the majority of our morning and most of our afternoon harvesting hundreds of crops and replanted over 1,000 strawberries. We let Joe leave the farm early in the afternoon as chances at the legend fish were running out. Truth is, I just wanted him off the farm for a while. He didn't even catch it, the twat. But we got everything planted at around 6 PM, so Kieran raced over to the beach to spend some money on a pendant before returning to tend to his jellies. It was also Hayley's birthday, so we all rushed to give her gifts in the evening before I went back to the cooking collection preparation, and Matt took a seat outside the house to take it all in, heading into the Desert Festival. Day 127 was the beginning of the Desert Festival. 3 days of activities, outfits, and plenty of surprises. So after a chill morning, we hopped on the bus and headed to the festival. So the main goal of this festival is to complete challenges and activities to earn calico eggs, which are like tokens you can exchange for items around the festival. So we dived straight in, fishing for a challenge set by Willie, getting reclothed by Emily to mixed success.
What is going on? I've gone in this place that you've gone in.
Emily's fingering me in this box, I think.
Yeah, I don't like this.
Diving into the skull caverns and getting cooked meals, all whilst earning tokens along the way. But the main attraction, the gambling.
Come on, Cactus!
Let's go, Cactus!
No, he shot himself!
Simply bet on one of these 3 creatures and watch the race unfold. So with some tokens in our pockets, we headed to bed, ending day 1 of the Desert Festival. Day 2 of the Desert Festival, or day 128, started in the Skull Caverns, accepting the challenge and diving as deep as we could, finding plenty of calico eggs along the way. Now Joe and Matt literally spent all of the second day down here, so we will let them collect the eggs whilst me and Kieran focus on the main event, the races. But not before we got 3 cactus statues from this man. And with the atmosphere just right, I perched atop this cliff and watched Kieran in his bright green morph suit get engaged to Hayley, my totally real hair blowing in the desert wind. So we celebrated in the only way possible, gambling our calico eggs on the snail, who hadn't won a single race yet, losing everything. The final day, we all decided to try our luck at Emily's one final time, and Matt was first up and she absolutely smashed it out the park.
Oh my god, my new outfit is sick.
That's a dinosaur!
She continued the hot streak as Joe and Kieran exited with equally cool outfits,
Lava Christmas.
Oh shit, I got like a raincoat on.
leaving me to complete the perfect set of 4 incredible outfits.
We all have sick
Yeah, she absolutely fucked me over, giving me the perfect divorced dad look. So with Joe and Matt heading off again to the Skull Caverns, me and Kieran indulged in some fishing, but more importantly, more gambling. And after humiliating defeats, Escargot rounded the corner in first place and it was looking like he could do it.
Oh my god, a burst! Oh my god, it's on! Come on, take the inside, take the inside.
Come on,
No, you no.
Oh my god.
That stupid fucking king sting has lost me everything. Kieran pulled me away after I accused the scorpion of taking performance enhancing drugs, so we all spent the eggs we'd accumulated over the past 3 days of the festival and took the bus home, ending a very peaceful couple of days on the farm. Back to normality then. Kieran decided to work on his combat XP today, so headed to the Skull Caverns for the day. Matt decided to ride Narrator around the valley, collecting salmon berries all day. Joe tripped with Emily but mainly did chores around the valley, finding this Joja decoration catalogue along the way, and I ran around a lot. But I did drop off a skeletal hand to the museum. What I'm basically trying to tell you is, we kinda did fuck all day. So when the evening came around, we visited the Stardrop Saloon, gifting Pam with enough beer to get her through about 30 minutes, before we all headed to bed nice and early, with a big day on the horizon. Day 131 was a special one on the farm. As bright and early, Kieran put on his bright yellow outfit and the villagers gathered to watch him marry Hayley, bringing the first spouse to Fumble Farm, and at the back of the ceremony, we looked on proudly. My beautiful hair that's definitely real was flowing in the springtime breeze. Matt was thinking about Krobus being up there one day, and Joe was probably thinking about the legend evading him twice already. However, it was back to business as usual straight after the ceremony, as I raced straight off to Ginger Island after organising my inventory. I paid this parrot 10 golden walnuts to clear a path to the west, finding a broken farmhouse that could prove useful in the future, but we didn't have the walnuts for that right now. Back at the farm, Joe checked the merchant, but nothing good came, so he just went about his chores, chopping hardwood before joining me on Ginger Island, discovering that for 1 million gold, we could unlock all the walnuts, but we didn't have the cheddar. So we spent our day collecting walnuts before we hit the magic number of 20, allowing Joe to unlock the Ginger Island farmhouse, giving us a place to stay for the future. I played this game for a while, but failed and gave up.
No, I fucked it up. I can't be arsed with that. Someone else with a bit of brain can do that.
Before meeting this old woman fishing where Matt joined us. We then spent the rest of the day hunting walnuts, speaking to villagers and fishing, staying in the new farmhouse to end day 131. Having remained back at the farm yesterday, Kieran got to work on chores, picking the ancient fruit, collecting oak resin, crafting some sprinklers for the Ginger Island farm project, and smelting ores so that he could craft another 46 kegs. Then he was off to harvest our wine and restock the kegs, placing new ones down and filling them too. Our empire was expanding rapidly. Meanwhile, on Ginger Island, we spent the morning fishing, finding something belonging to Kent, so we returned early to the valley to give it back to him, before also gifting Shane something as it was his birthday. And now it pains me to say this, but Joe finally caught the legend. And that's all the screen time he gets. So Kieran called us back to the farm where we processed more ancient fruit into seeds, which we were going to plant on Ginger Island to end the day. Oh, and our ancient fruit wine sold for a humble 290,000 gold.
Fucking
Fuck me.
So the plan was beginning to come together. The Queen of Sauce blessed us this morning with yet another classic episode to kickstart the day. Kieran noticed that Haley had moved into his house as well before he took care of his jellies. Then he headed off to Ginger Island to start a project. Matt also headed over, not before gifting a pumpkin to his true love. Over on the island, he spoke to a frog, completed the puzzle I couldn't finish, and explored around. I was here too, but mainly I spent my day fishing for my personal collection. Joe was at Robin's though, upgrading his house for the first time. His ego has grown since he caught the legend, I see. He then gifted Leah some goat cheese, not quite the ladies' man compared to Matt, before he done some random chores around the valley. To end the day though, Kieran drafted myself and Matt, and we worked through the evening planting as many ancient fruit seeds as we could get in the ground, to increase our profits moving forward. After that laborious day, I started my morning with some fishing by the shipwreck, before it was time to go back to golden walnut hunting. However, my brain did short circuit at this puzzle, so once again, I left it alone, going back to hunting the walnuts. Joe was the one to draw the short straw today, as he was the only one in the valley, on the day where our strawberries were ready. He was tasked with harvesting over 1,200 crops, so as you can imagine, it did take him all day, but we made a cool 185,000 gold from it, so a good shift. Kieran paved out some potential extra sprinkler slots before he actually returned to the valley, opting to sneak past Joe and spend his day smelting, but he was caught by Joe and sentenced to help him, before he had to process a lot more ancient fruit into seeds. This left Matt to fish and chat to Krobus, and definitely not helping Joe at all, and spend his day exploring and checking his collection progress to end the day. Abigail gave Matt a frosty apology for whatever happened yesterday between them. Maybe he was losing his touch, so he took a ride on Dorito to clear his head, visiting Lewis's prize machine to take his mind off of it all. Leah was also on Joe's doorstep this morning, but he had a better encounter, being gifted a pretzel statue, so he took it before taking the community quest Fragments of the Past, tasking us with collecting 100 bones for Gunther. He then joined me at Ginger Island for a day hunting walnuts and exploring, where I fixed this bridge near the tent for 10 golden walnuts. Not a bad deal. Then I met this geezer called Professor Snail and his empty table, so I gave him a fossilized leg to help him get going. The ladies' man was back on form, however, later in the day, as Matt sweet-talked Sandy into giving him a TV remote so that he could give that to George in exchange for an Arctic shard. God knows where he was keeping that. So he traded that for a wiggling worm with the wizard. What a tongue twister. He then traded that with Willie, who was frothing at the mouth for the worm, offering a pirate's locket in exchange, ending his day of trading. Kieran was also in the desert, purchasing 1,000 starfruit, preparing for summer, and also chopping trees late into the evening. In all the chaos of the wine business, Ginger Island, and the mounting list of goals for perfection, it had completely slipped our mind that today was the flower dance, so we took care of some chores before heading over. Joe and Kieran avenged their past failures as Kieran danced with Haley and Joe danced with Leah. Matt may have sulked as Krobus couldn't attend, so he begrudgingly danced with Emily,
Did you all take your pants off?
leaving me to dance with Penny. And just like that, the second flower dance was over and we headed to bed. Matt was off on Dorito early to start day 137, heading to see the raccoons who had moved into the tree next to Marnie's. He gave them some carrot juice and pickled horseradish, expanding what they sold us as well as receiving some fairy dust. The bookseller was in town today, so with our wine business up and running, we headed over there to spend some money, purchasing The Way of the Wind Part 1, increasing our running speed, before me and Kieran decided we would test out the new movie theatre, so we purchased a ticket and headed inside. After the film, we then carried on spending, all purchasing a mega backpack from Pierre for an eye-watering 50,000 gold each. Joe was once again at Gunther's, this time only dropping off the prehistoric scapula before he headed to the desert, purchasing 1,000 deluxe speed growers from Sandy for the summer crops. Matt joined him in the desert to fish, but Joe quickly left, joining Kieran on Ginger Island, where Joe donated a snake skull to the field office before heading to the forge, leaving me to plant this mango sapling back at the farm, and Kieran to extend our Ginger Island farm with more ancient seeds to end an action-packed day. In an almost perfect role reversal, day 138 began with everyone but Joe having to harvest the 1,000 strawberries, which wasn't fun. So we harvested them over the morning before cooking up some fried calamari as it was Pierre's birthday today. So we gifted that to him before Joe spent time chopping hardwood and working on quests he had piling up, so plenty of gift giving. Matt kinda just spoke to people today, opting to spend his day socializing and riding Dorito around. Kieran crafted an iridium band and spent his day smelting ores back in the shed, and that left me. And as you can probably imagine, I proceeded to also do fuck all. God knows why we always follow a productive day with a horror show of laziness. But anyway, on to the penultimate day of spring. Day 139 started with another awkward queue outside Emily's house as it was her birthday, so we restocked her crystal collection before I went to Ginger Island, inspired by Emily and her crystals, finally cracking the puzzle.
Oh, I did it.
To get 5 more golden walnuts. So I spent them unlocking the Parrot Express.
10 walnuts, Orc, Parrot Express. Did I do it? Did I cook? I'm cooking.
To make traveling around the island easier, so I continued fishing and foraging around for the rest of my day. Joe continued his quests, also working on a fishing collection and foraging around the valley. I'd argue he's lazier than me nowadays. What wasn't lazy was Kieran's day. He harvested the ancient fruit and the oak resin before crafting 30 more kegs and adding them to the quarry, before harvesting and selling our biggest ancient fruit wine harvest yet. But until the Ginger Island farm was grown, we had spare kegs, so he spent his day kegging coffee to turn into triple shot espressos to move even quicker, which left Matt, who worked on his combat XP from morning to night, and at the end of the day we earned 400,000 gold from the wine and jellies. Here we are then, the final day of spring. As you've probably seen, we planned to repeat the same formula, shopping for various amounts of the spring crops we'd need for cooking and shipping collections, whilst also planting 1,000 speed grow star fruits, just to keep our wine business going through the summer. So Matt visited Krobus to catch up before finally returning the locket to Birdie on Ginger Island, in exchange for some golden walnuts. So he spent his day fishing and hunting more walnuts, while Joe followed his footsteps doing the same. However, it was a big day for Joe, as he entered Leah's hut early in the morning and asked her an important question. And I also did the same. No, not getting a new partner, I just went to Ginger Island as well. Kieran also had a laid back day, spending his day mainly continuing to keg coffee, stopping by the desert trader to purchase over 400 staircases and then back to more coffee, then spending his evening chopping wood to end spring and bring us yet again into summer. For Joe, Matt and Kieran, their morning and afternoon involved scything the dead weeds, planting the speed grow, and then trying to lay down the 1,000 start fruit seeds. Meanwhile, I was the shopper today, purchasing 8 blueberries, 8 peppers, 30 melons, 30 radishes, 20 poppies, 50 red cabbages, 20 sunflowers, 60 tomatoes, 30 corn, and 15 sprangles, heading back to plant them all around the farm. By late afternoon, the guys had finished crop laying, so Kieran regifted Haley some food before chopping more wood for foraging XP. Matt got his 4th level 10 skill in foraging this time, and also learnt he couldn't give Krobus a regular bouquet. He wasn't basic like other people's partners. And Joe helped me back at the farm. He only had foraging left before he had all level 10 skills, with Kieran at level 9 in both combat and foraging before he was there too. However, I wasn't looking so good. I was unfortunately still at level 7 in foraging and combat, and 9 in mining. But hey, I'm the motivator of the group, so I called all the boys over to sleep the first day of summer, where Matt opted for the tracker perk for level 10 foraging. Day 2 of summer started with Joe accepting the crop order community quest, asking us to grow and ship 100 pieces of wheat, so we can tend to that over the coming days. But Joe had a familiar foe on his mind, the one that caused me so much trouble in the first 100 days, the crimson fish. He did it on the first try, prick. I left for Ginger Island so I wouldn't have to see him, planting the spare crops we had on the island farm, before fishing the afternoon away. Matt purchased a Void Ghost pendant aiming to friend zone Krobus and ask him to move in, before grinding his combat XP in the caverns. Kieran was in the Ginger Island Forge, farming for cinder shards, aiming to enchant his weapons by the forge very soon. And Joe went on a geode spree at Clint's, but was only able to donate a golden mask to our collection, but progress is progress. He then just ran around. I'm not letting him get away with being lazy after my treatment earlier. Speaking of me, I donated some fossilized ribs to Dr. Snail before planting my tent and stargazing at the beach, leaving Matt to ask Krobus the important question, and with a yes, Krobus would soon join us at Fumble Farm. But he wasn't done. Matt had reached level 10 combat, getting full level 10 skills, so he found and entered this cave, finding a letter from his granddad about these 5 special mastery perch which he could unlock, but he needed more XP to do it, so he got on Dorito and headed to bed. Matt followed the exciting news from the previous day by pretty much doing fuck all on day 143. He just hopped on Dorito and did his best Santa impression, speaking and gifting as many villagers as he could, as we all needed max hearts with everyone, with some of us still yet to meet people, which wasn't good. Kieran found some new fishing collection items from my crab pots before jetting off to the forge again, this time joined by myself and Joe. We spent all day there, killing plenty of monsters, gathering some golden walnuts, and most importantly, reaching the forge with some cinder shards this time. So Joe went first, enchanting his sword, getting the Crusader perk. I managed to get the exact same enchant, leaving Kieran to complete the trilogy, also getting Crusader earlier in the day. I hope it's fucking good. Due to his past days of grinding, he also had spare cinder shards, so enchanted his pickaxe, getting Swift, self-explanatory really. Also combining his galaxy sword with the sword we got way back from the magical portal, giving his sword a fresh look. And finally, he finished the day by getting Swift on his Iridium Axe 2. Kieran was straight over to Clint's to start today, cracking 3 golden coconuts open, managing to get a banana sapling,
Got a banana tree.
That's really good.
and the best item yet, a golden coconut hat, matching his outfit. So he ran around showing everyone, including Haley, before returning to the forge to farm more combat XP for level 10. Matt continued his present shower around the valley, gifting Jazz a birthday gift, completing quests, and using Lewis's prize machine whilst improving his hearts with everyone he could find. He was the only hope right now for the friendship part of perfection. Joe was back at the desert solving secret notes before absolutely fucking decimating Kieran's tree farm, replanting as he went luckily, still hunting for that foraging level 10, leaving me and Matt on Ginger Island in the evening, becoming tempted by the parrot offering to find all the walnuts for us, but resisting it for now. I also had 2 bouquets of flowers, accepting Matt's extra one, but currently I had zero idea who to go for. I wanted Krobus, but Matt got rather aggressive when I expressed interest, so I backed off. So we hunted around for some golden walnuts on opposite sides of the island before night fell and we had to head to bed. I have never seen someone move quite as fast as Matt on day 145, as news broke that his roommate had arrived. So he raced back on Willie's boat, hustled through the valley, and there he was. So after getting excited, he utilized all that pent up energy and fought through floors on floors of the Skull Caverns. Not even for XP anymore, just the love of the game. Kieran also found excitement through his partner as he reached 12 hearts with Haley, grabbing another star drop. So he raced off back to the forge, completing his set and enchanting the fishing rod, getting the master perk. So he stuck around and fought the day away too.
What the fucking... These fucking blood clot mushrooms are just started trying to fight me.
Leaving the 2 of us to have a standard day. Leah didn't get Joe anything special, so he traded for some artifact troves as we were close to completion, cracking them at Clint's, and getting fuck all. So he chopped hardwood, gave the raccoon some bug meat and moss. Oh, and you might be thinking, what else did he do? Fuck all again. And you might be asking, Jacob, what did you do today? Well, I gave out presents all day and night, whilst riding around on Dorito, looking much more productive than Joe whilst I did it. Leah had invited Matt and all of the rest of us to her art show early on day 146, which I'm positive half of us didn't even compute and just got on with our day as usual, especially the golden bowling ball, who was active early, harvesting our ancient fruits, collecting oat resin, collecting, selling and rekegging the wine, before jetting off with Matt as company to the Ginger Island Forge to work on combat XP. Matt didn't even go to Leah's thing, by the way. He opted to play catch with Alex. Priorities. Joe also didn't go to his own girlfriend's art show today, as he was tending to the animals and heading to and purchasing 100 wheat from Pierre's for the quest we got a few days days ago. And then he went back to Clint's, opening more artifact troves. He got nothing again. So he came to Ginger Island to plant wheat and hunt walnuts, which is also what I did to end day 146. I raced home early today to give Krobus a pumpkin and catch the newest episode of the Queen of Sauce, learning Carp Surprise. I then laid eyes on our coop, which was a touch full, so I had to show everyone.
Come here. Wait,
How long have they been there?
So with the morning spent looking at that, I went to Clint's to crack some geodes, joining Kieran with the golden coconut hat, but ultimately not getting anything we needed. Speaking of Kieran, he hit level 10 in combat, meaning he was just one foraging level away from all level 10 skills. So he headed straight to the desert to work on that one foraging level, chopping trees. Matt did nothing again today, a rare lazy day from the ladies man, who kinda just ran around checking tasks we'd done days ago, leaving Joe, who was doing fuck all before he went to work on his fishing collection in the mines. So not all bad from him. Matt wasn't going to be lazy twice though, as he rode off on Dorito to accept Robin's project, to collect 80 pieces of hardwood in 7 days, which would be easy as we all needed the foraging XP. Matt then put his watering can in for an upgrade at Clint's before, like the rest of us, dropping Gus off a birthday diamond. My head is just hurting from how productive he's being. He then finally made it to the second showing of Leah's art show, before setting off to the Skull Caverns to practice some more. Kieran was also in the desert today. Well, he was wherever a tree was, as he dedicated his whole day to deforestation and replanting seeds, where he could fit them. But he also repurchased 1,000 starfruit seeds for when they grow very soon. Joe was visiting the train today before deciding he'd head to the desert to chop wood too, but Kieran had massacred every tree, so he tried to find more trees before cooling it off and fishing in the mines. It was my turn to be Santa today, however, as I completed spare quests and gave out as many gifts as I could, working on the friendship as it wasn't looking too good for me, heading into the end of day 148. I was continuing my gift giving into day 149 before purchasing an apricot sapling from Pierre's, planting and fertilizing it back at the greenhouse before heading to the mines to finally start work on my combat XP. Kieran was emptying our pockets today too, purchasing 750 copper and iron ore from Clint's as we'd ran out and needed more kegs urgently. So he was smelting all of that for his afternoon, and after a tough day of smelting, he crafted 35 more kegs, ready to go for the starfruit day tomorrow. It was more mine fishing for Joe before he got fed up and headed to Ginger Island, exploring for walnuts and tackling the forge. It was more skull caverns for Matt too today, so the day sped by as we all worked on our own tasks, until the day turned to night, all making it to bed apart from Joe, who passed out in the forge. The big day had arrived, day 150, also starfruit day, so we distributed the seeds and went to town, harvesting and replanting the seeds. The thing about using speed grow means we get 3 whole starfruit harvests this summer, instead of the 2 we'd get without, so 1,000 more starfruit for our wine empire. As you can imagine, this took us into the late afternoon, as we had other crops to harvest and replant too. Joe back on Ginger Island was also replanting more wheat for the quest, and also commissioned the parrots to reconstruct the island resort, which was huge. Other than that, I spent my time organizing ingredients for our cooking collection. Joe and Shane drank by this pier together. Kieran drove himself to the desert, massacring more trees, and Matt had gained his first mastery level, so claimed farming mastery, unlocking the iridium scythe, allowing him to harvest crops with its swing instead of just hay. So he headed to bed a happy man. Now today had completely snuck up on us. We'd been so focused on golden walnuts, wine, and starfruit we'd forgotten about the luau, which was today. And after last year's satisfactory result, we weren't taking any prisoners tonight. Luckily, we had just harvested 1,000 starfruit, so all placed a golden quality one into the soup and crossed our fingers as the governor took his first sip.
Oh my god, that soup is so ridiculous.
And just like that, we had created the best soup possible, gaining a shit ton of friendship with everyone in the process. So we ate some soup and headed to bed feeling victorious. Day 152 was another one of those lazy days on Fumble Farm. Even with the crunch of perfection weighing heavy, today Matt picked some coffee beans before running around the valley all day. Kieran extended our keg quarry empire. Joe worked on his foraging before also running around all day, leaving me, who after a little picnic with Penny, I finally made my mind up and started dating her, just to get indecisive, and alongside some peer pressure from Kieran.
You've got 2 bouquets though in that inventory, because I know you have. You ain't gonna fire the second one off, I hear.
I might just play about, you know.
I also started dating Emily. Don't judge me, I wanted Krobus. So I helped Kieran harvest our wine before slotting in our first starfruit wine batch before heading to bed. After a morning spent browsing the wiki for what Alex liked as it was his birthday, we scoured the valley for him, only to realise he was at the resort on Ginger Island. So we jetted straight off and bombarded him with a range of gifts, only to see the horrors of Harvey and his speedos. Then it was time for something special. I broke off to the Pirate's Cove, and after catching a stingray, I achieved a huge step towards perfection.
Yeah! He's done it!
Oh shit.
it cool?
He's got everything.
I'm fished up.
The Master Angler, which you get for catching all the fish in the game. So I celebrated by harvesting some plants at Ginger Island. Joe dropped off 80 hardwood for Robin and purchased something from this dodgy bloke at the beach. Kieran had planned to plant some more ancient fruit seeds at Ginger Island but forgot the seed makers, so he took his anger out in the desert on some trees. And that left Matt, who gave out some gifts, hunted golden walnuts and fished in the cove to end day 153. You know the drill. Bright green dice and an early morning. There's only one place we're going, and now we had 500 plus staircases for plenty of Skull Cavern runs. So Joe took off, dropping down as many floors as he could with Kieran. Matt and myself trailing behind him, you know, collecting anything of value. So after plenty of treasure floors, some iridium, and Mr. Key made the whole team's acquaintance, and this awkward treasure floor with tons of enemies, we made it way past floor 160, opting to stop dropping floors and focus on grabbing all the loot we can, which ended up being plenty of iridium ore and more valuables before we all headed home alive, which was a rare occurrence. Oh, and also, after rushing to get down floors and barely escaping enemy-infested treasure floors, Kieran managed to find not one but 2 auto-petters, which would be great for our animals moving forward. Alongside the auto-petters, I put on my beautiful new turban before we all dropped our loot into the storage shed. Kieran was back off to Ginger Island, this time fully prepared, so he spent most of his day creating seeds and completely maximizing how many ancient fruit we could grow here for more wine down the line. Matt was back in Pelican Town accepting the Juicy Bugs Wanted community quest and collecting his copper watering can, putting it straight back in for a steel upgrade. Today was a special day for Joe, as after a couple hours of nervous pacing, he plucked up the courage and got engaged to Leah, and with their wedding in 3 days, he headed to the forge to enchant his pickaxe and axe, getting swift on them both before heading home to sell off some items. I knew my skills were lagging behind, so I decided to spend the whole of my day killing things in the mine, working on the Monster Slayer goals and my combat level to end day 155.
See, Joe, that's the commitment I need around here.
Sorry. I was left to my own devices. Many days far away with nothing to show. And the walls kept crumbling down in the city that we love. Great clouds roll over the hills, see darkness from above. But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like nothing ended up? But if you close your eyes, does it almost feel like you've been here before? And the walls kept tumbling down in the city that we love. Great clouds roll over the hills, bringing darkness from above.
Oh, God. That's going in. God, I knew my role immediately. As soon as you started singing, I knew I'd be the drum in that. I just knew.
Day 156 was another milestone day. Matt also became a master angler from his river crab pots, which did the job for him. He then purchased a workbench from Robin before purchasing all the recipes he could, as we'd need it for the crafting collection. He then grabbed a second coop, as we planned to fill one with rabbits for rabbit's feet, which for some strange reason everyone seemed to love, which was good for us. Kieran was fishing around Ginger Island, inspired by Matt and not myself, his words not mine. Joe was cracking geodes, and with the whole team being productive, that left me, where I proceeded to spend all day creating a Joja shrine in my spare room, just in time to show the rest of them lot as they returned home for the day.
Come in, take a seat on the sofa.
What the fuck is this?
After that strange team building evening, I raced off to give Sam a birthday gift, before laying in bed with him as Kieran walked in, which wasn't ideal timing.
You're too late.
Oh my God, that's disgusting.
Maybe I wanted a third partner. It was then back to the mines for me, working on that combat skill and Monster Slayer goals. Joe was back at Clint smashing geodes to no avail, so spent some time with Leah before their big day. After achieving Master Angler, Matt spent today collecting rewards and also plotting his next move, looking through what he had completed and what was left to get. And with the green rain falling for the second time tomorrow, Kieran warmed up, decimating every tree in the desert and the forest in preparation for tomorrow. With tomorrow now today, the goal is simple. Green Rain Day. One of the best chances to get the moss resource and also fiber, which we needed a shit shit ton of. As for perfection, we needed a lot of it for cooking as well as books to purchase and some crafting recipes. So with that being a number one priority, we spent morning and night just chopping trees and moss bushes, ending the day with a healthy amount to move forward with. Once again, we took our spots at the back. Slightly different hats and outfits this time though, and this time it was Joe getting married to Leah, taking our farm population up to a strong 7, leaving just me to navigate my 2 partners. But hey, it's Joe's day, so we can push that problem further down the line. After the wedding, it was back to business however, as it was our second starfruit harvest. So due to Matt having his mastery skills to get, we let him put his iridium scythe to work. Sam was asking Joe to come to his event, as well as Haley asking Kieran to bring a cake to town for some reason. After about 12 cutscenes, we finally popped by and gave Demetrius a birthday gift. Kieran was back on the hunt for trees as his skill was so close to being maxed. Same with Joe, and I was down in the caves again, where Joe joined me later on. Kieran was up at the quarry replenishing our wine and harvesting it, leaving Matt to spend the rest of the day planting seeds, netting a cool 764,000 gold overnight. Today was all about the Skull Caverns for me, arriving early and spending all day there. Not dropping down many floors, but killing plenty of enemies along the way. Joe spent his morning on Ginger Island before returning to crack geodes, nothing good yet again, before he chopped more trees and saw that the trout derby we wouldn't be attending had begun. I couldn't go back. Kieran placed his watering can in for a gold upgrade before chopping trees like Joe. And then also like Joe, he started work on his monster slayer goals, where you need to kill a shit ton of certain monsters. Just another step on the route to perfection. Matt was then left to harvest the ancient fruit, grab his watering can from Clint's and place his axe in for an upgrade, before he activated his second of the 5 mastery skills, unlocking the combat mastery. So he gave out some gifts to stay humble at the end of day 160. Matt was off to Pierre's early today, before heading to Ginger Island to plant some seeds, aiming to appease this giant frog. When in Rome, they say. So he spent his day hunting walnuts, doing multiple surveys along the way. Kieran nearly spent 30,000 gold on a Haley portrait, but opted against it, instead chopping desert trees before once again carrying on with his monster slayer goals, which is also what I did today, but in the Skull Caverns. This time reaching mining level 10. I was getting closer. Joe grabbed a snail, ticking off another master angler goal, before he proceeded to run around for 12 hours, until he finally collected some oak resin, ran around some more and headed to bed. We all showered the dwarf in gifts on the morning of day 162, before Joe grabbed his hoe and commissioned a steel watering can upgrade. Kieran then put his watering can straight back in for an iridium upgrade, before he was back to chopping trees, spotting Penny having a picnic in the woods, opting to run past her, getting his level agonizingly close, so he chased trees all day but couldn't find the one he needed. I headed to see the train pass through before another day of grafting, going for more monster slayer goals. Matt was also doing this, working from the quarry before taking care of some chores and visiting the raccoons, leaving Joe to spend his day on Ginger Island, aimlessly running around pretending to hunt down some golden walnuts. I need to say, I'm working way too hard. This is like my 5th day of being productive in a row, so I took the morning to wander, before going back to the caverns, killing anything I could find. I just missed the Joja room and getting my steps in. Kieran finally grabbed level 10, so he visited the Mastery Cave for the first time, before checking his Monster Slayer goals and killing a frostbat. Marlon had a cracking day. Matt once again was on Ginger Island hunting down golden walnuts. I'm very convinced that people go to Ginger Island when they can't be asked to do anything, but that's just an allegation. Leaving Joe, who did the same fucking thing. Nah, this is getting ridiculous now. I'm working my absolute dick off and these two are just frolicking. Could never be me. Day 164 kicked off with me dropping Willie a birthday gift off, before purchasing a pendant from this man, meaning it was decision time. And after enough strange encounters with Emily, there was only one correct decision. So I got engaged to Penny while she was washing up. How romantic. So I spent the day in the Skull Caverns celebrating. Matt grabbed his steel pan from Clint's before spending his day giving out as many gifts as he could. He's gotta stay humble. Kieran was also at Clint's picking up his watering can and placing his hoe in for an upgrade, before going back to pop his monster musk and killing dust sprites, managing to hit the goal. So he pivoted to killing skellons joined by Matt. Joe ran around on Ginger Island and then he went to bed at 8 PM. Now I do love an early night, but that's taking the piss a bit. If we don't achieve perfection because of him, I'm gonna lose it. After that slight meltdown, Haley invited Kieran to some, well, I actually don't know what's happening here, so we'll leave it. Matt bought a book from the dwarf before putting his pan in for a steel upgrade, before spending his day gift giving and quest completing. Joe went for another artifact round, nothing again, so he dropped his axe in for an upgrade, before planting some trees and heading to work on his monster goals. He also stood by the bus for 6 hours, but I'm the bigger man, I'm not going to talk about that. I began the process of upgrading my watering can, before spending my day fighting in the Skull Caverns, leaving Kieran.
They're just running around the cake. what is going on. That's 3 hours of my day I'll get back.
Who finally escaped before attempting to fish up an octopus but ran out of time, so instead caught a slimejack and a wood skip before also working on his monster slayer goals to end the day. Today was a huge day for the three of us, as it was Leo's birthday. Matt has been gifting and speaking to him, but for the three of us, this was crucial. So we raced straight there in the rain to drop off a lot of mangoes. Kieran delayed his trip though, catching that octopus and placing his new gold hoe in for its iridium upgrade, arriving at Ginger Island and picking the first ancient fruit round with Matt for mastery XP. He then dropped Leo off a duck feather before catching the blue discus fish.
Yes!
Rounding out his fishing mastery, also hitting his skeleton monster slayer goal. What a day for him. Matt spent his day gathering walnuts and paying for this mailbox before heading to the forge to continue. Joe tried to catch an ice pip today, grabbing it right at the end of the day, and I headed into the witch's basement to prepare for my wedding. And once I was finished, I joined Penny in the spa. And in the early hours of the morning, me and Penny got married. My new trim scaring everyone who attended.
Look how grim it looks.
You know what it is? This is what she fell in love with him, man.
He's put a casual outfit on as well.
But that's the man she fell in love with. Emily started day 167 by sending me a present, grasping at straws I see, before Matt got our second coop its big upgrade. Alongside this, the bookseller was here, so we purchased every book we didn't have yet, which certainly dented our finances. Matt then jetted off to Ginger Island to farm walnuts and monster slayer goals. Kieran got a new star drop from Willy before harvesting our ancient fruit and selling our wine, replenishing it in the process. Joe grabbed his new axe, placing his hoe in for its steel upgrade before deforesting the whole desert. And on my wedding day, I spent it working on gathering some more cooking supplies that we had lying around, ending the day earning another 750,000 gold, paying us back for the books at least. The final day of summer had snuck up on us, a chance for one of my favourite festivals. But first I carried on my cooking preparation, gathering 4 of everything we'd need and organising them into chests. Joe gathered oak resin before heading to the mines, hunting the monster slayer goals, which were a big focus now and we had barely made any progress so far. Matt and Kieran picked the star fruit for more mastery XP, so after grabbing his iridium hoe, Kieran headed to the mastery cave, grabbing the combat mastery to start him off, and heading to the mines to test it out. Matt completed another community quest for us before finding the wizard's shop, which could be very promising, but time ran low and it was time for the Dance of the Moonlight Jellies, a festival where you can reminisce on the season just gone, and Joe didn't fucking make it. Just end the day and go to full.
Is this event going to end at 12?
I don't think it ends at 12, no? Oh, it's ended. Sorry.
Day 1 of fall was simple, so I won't bore you. Joe picked up his hoe, I headed to Pierre's to buy all the crops we'd need for cooking and other collections, filling the rest up with pumpkins, and then we spent all day planting them, literally all day, to kickstart fall. Now that boring day is over, Kieran grabbed the community quest from Robin, tasking us with grabbing 1,000 pieces of wood, which should be easy with Joe running around deforesting what he can. Kieran then spent time completing the backlog of quests he had before heading to the mines for more monster slayer goals. Matt somehow breached the floor in Lewis's house, finding his lucky purple shorts, returning them promptly to Lewis, who was slightly concerned how he got them in the first place. He then headed to Ginger Island to donate a mummified bat to Professor Snail in exchange for a walnut. He then paid these parrots to construct a trading hut for us for future use. Joe upgraded his hoe to gold before continuing his reign of deforestation, which left me to place my axe in for an iridium upgrade before I was off to the desert too, but for monster slaying this time. But that didn't last for long, as I died, so I sulked around the farm to end day 170. Today for me was this time a success, heading to the normal mines and fighting all day and night, managing to grab level 10 combat and work on some monster slayer goals, meaning that all I had left to do was foraging to have mastery. Joe was also in the mines with me working on his monster slayer goals alongside Kieran. I did tell you it was a new priority of ours for now, but he did manage to kill all the Duggies he needed. Teach him how to Dougie, yeah, sharp. He then headed to the mutant bug lair and completed his insect monster slayer goals too, so a productive day for him. Joe received the Book of Stars from the raccoons as he gave them more food, and finally with his trinket, Matt grabbed his iridium axe before heading to the desert and decimating everything in the Skull Caverns. We were all in on the monster slayer goals and weren't slowing down anytime soon. We had some small tasks to do before the monster hunting continued. I stopped by Clint's grabbing my iridium axe before starting the painstaking grind from level 8 to 10 foraging. Matt upgraded our second coop to deluxe. Joe grabbed his gold hoe and upgraded his bin to copper before heading to Ginger Island to explore for more walnuts and tend to the farm. We finished another community quest before Kieran and Matt were in the mines. You know by now what they're doing. It was Elliot's birthday today, so we raced off to give him a present as he was on our list of could be a future problem when it came to maxing out our hearts. I once again chopped every tree I could find before heading back to sleep it off with Penny. Kieran had gained a new trinket and it was causing him a few problems.
What the fuck? But my frog just swallowed a big slime hole. You can imagine it was a pretty weird event.
But today was more of the same in the Skull Caverns. Joe harvested some ancient fruit on Ginger Island where Matt joined him, purchasing this bridge in the forge where he spent all day killing as many magma sprites as he could, as we needed to kill 150 of them each. And that was it. Joe did run around doing nothing, but that's the norm by now, prick. Matt was at Marnie's today, filling our second coop with rabbits, adding Jucky, Lawtu, Pickle, McLongaroo, Snus, Canus, Kepe, Snarnu, Pefe, Ma, Nonumo, and Bracody. The goal hopefully is they produce a lot of rabbit's feet for a supply of loved gifts. He then unlocked the mining mastery. Joe grabbed his bin, opting for an iridium hoe upgrade before smashing more geodes, getting a lot closer but still nothing we actually needed. He then was tempted by the Joja parrot, purchasing all the remaining golden walnuts for a discounted 340,000 gold. Look, we were worried about finishing this thing in 300 days, but if you're gonna blame anyone in the comments, blame Joe. So he spent his day in the forge hunting magma sprites. Me and Kieran chopped and hunted like usual, except I surfaced to grab and sell our wine with Matt, ending the day by kegging some more starfruit, earning another 730,000 gold. Also, Morris was back, so I think we did a bad thing. Again, blame Joe. The Queen of Sauce kept us humble on the morning of day 175, before Matt was off cracking more geodes to no avail at Clint's, before he sweet-talked Sandy. Sadly, no remote this time, so he took his anger out in the Skull Caverns. I also was cracking mystery boxes, but I got luckier, finding the mystery book we needed for the book collection, so I chopped more logs and killed more monsters. Kieran harvested more ancient fruit and oak resin, opting to add 34 more kegs to our growing empire, placing starfruit in them before heading to the caverns as well, earning his mummy goal along the way. Joe then went on a walnut spending spree, grabbing the farm obelisk and unlocking Mr. Key's room, meeting the man himself for the first time, also seeing our abysmal perfection percentage. He then headed to the forge to kill more magma sprites, this time achieving the goal before heading home to end the day. Now, we have to explain a mechanic quickly. Perfection in multiplayer works like this. It tracks the best case scenario, pooling all of our progress together. So it actually doesn't need everyone to complete everything, but what's the fun in that? So I'm just interjecting to let you know quickly we will all be hitting perfection at the same time, but all having individually completed it. With that out the way, on to tomorrow then. Joe grabbed his iridium hoe today, placing his watering can in for a gold upgrade before he spent the whole day in the forge once again, even though he was done with that goal. But to be fair, he could be enchanting. No, he got there and forgot the prismatic shard. So a cracker from Joe. Matt crafted the statue of the Dwarf King for a mining buff every day for us. He then carried this momentum on, giving out gifts and hunting in the Skull Caverns. This left me and Kieran, who had become creatures of routine. I would chop and replant trees before exhausting that and heading to the mines, with Kieran just going straight to the mines, stopping to check our progress in between. I did complete my goal today though, which was good, so I headed home happy. You'll never guess what we did today. The exact same thing. Kieran was flying though, checking his goals and seeing that he was close to finishing, so he shot to the desert and completed the serpent and slime goals, which were big ones to tick off, equipping the napalm ring before hunting void spirits next. I completed my skeleton goal, so I went for dusk sprites next, and with us two out of the way, Matt placed his watering can in for its gold upgrade before taking the Curious Substance community quest, before Pam had her big payday as he also came to the Skull Caverns to take the baton from Kieran, which left Joe, who returned with prismatic shards, so combined his swords for a new look, enchanting his fishing rod, getting master, then combining his two rings so he could equip a new one. So he left the forge and returned home to end the day. Joe started day 178 by grabbing his gold watering can and putting his pan in for its steel upgrade. Instead of then using the elevator, he proceeded to fight the whole day just to enchant his watering can, getting bottomless, but still what a waste. Kieran took his new napalm ring for a spin, hunting void spirits all day, popping out briefly to buy 350 salads. His plan was to just give them out randomly every time he sees someone and hope that's enough to do the job. I did the same routine I've done for weeks now, leaving Matt, who cracked some mystery boxes before also spending his day in the Skull Caverns. Matt grabbed his gold watering can and immediately swapped it for iridium. Clint having to work a lot isn't a bad thing, I guess, considering he pencils a whole day off just to stare at Emily. Strange guy. And after dropping Jody a present off, it was monster hunting for Matt and Kieran. Meanwhile, I didn't chop any trees as I picked back up my earlier project, the cooking collection, so that we would all have enough to complete it in time, leaving Joe to harvest some crops on Ginger Island before spending his whole day in the forge again. I guess he enjoys it there. On day 180, we had a little blunder. You see, we had been religiously watching the Queen of Sauce. It keeps us humble, you see. So when a book for 50,000 gold popped up, which would fill out all the remaining recipes, we impulse bought it. When Matt found out that he only had 6 recipes left to learn, so we then all bought it for some stupid fucking reason, learning that we all had 6 recipes left. You couldn't write this shit. But that's when Joe got something rare that we all really wanted.
Whoa, I got the hat!
The bin hat.
I got the bin hat.
I hate him. Actually, no, we hate him. So Kieran took his anger out on some more void spirits, finishing his goal. So he was off to the forge to farm magma sprites. Joe must have been keeping it warm for him. Matt was also in the mines again, where Joe joined him later in the evening, leaving me to interact with this bear before more cooking collection planning to cap the day off. It was ancient fruit day on the rainy Ginger Island, so Kieran harvested them for mastery XP. Joe was harvesting our wine today and refilling it before he tried to make more kegs, but our ore chest had been neglected. So he went about smelting and eventually expanded the kegs even more. Matt grabbed 2 goals today, killing his last rock crab alongside his last Dougie. Kieran also killed all the magma sprites he needed. Yes! So returned to see he only had rock crabs and pepper X's left to go, leaving more cooking preparation for me from morning to night. Heading to bed where we earned a cool 760,000 gold. Abigail tried to make me cheat on my wife on the morning of day 182. No joke here, just a red card offense. So I burnt the letter before chopping logs, shopping for seeds at Pierre's and tending to the animals, all in pursuit of the remaining cooking collection ingredients. Joe continued his smelting today, adding another eye-watering 40 plus kegs, which saw the quarry really begin to fill up. So he added some star fruit to the new ones before he visited the raccoons, dropping some dried coconuts off to them. Abigail then tried flirting with him and he immediately folded, putting her off a lot. So he took off to Ginger Island to clear his head. Matt polished off his skeleton gold today, leaving Kieran, who used his overflow of staircases to drop floors looking for pepper Rex infested ones, which he actually found, but it wasn't enough for the goal, so he went back to it. Sadly, he didn't find any more, but it was pumpkin day today, so Kieran, Matt and Joe harvested them. I wasn't allowed as I wasn't at level 10 foraging yet.
Okay.
Don't harvest them though, man.
A bit mean if you ask me, so I left them, giving Sandy a birthday gift before grabbing my iridium hoe from Clint. Then I worked on the cooking collection, and sadly I have to mention this, I forgot to visit Pierre, you know, to stock up the pumpkins the other 3 were collecting right now, so that one is on me. After collecting the pumpkins though, Kieran managed to get his pepper X's completed.
Ah, 1 left.
So he began the final task of killing 60 rock crabs, which he'd find harder than it should have been. Matt was in the skull caverns using Kieran's staircase trail to benefit him, and Joe placed his pan in for its gold upgrade at Clint's before starting work on his own monster slayer goals. We did that thing again, completely forgetting about a festival.
The festival's being set up. What festival?
The Stardew Valley Fair.
So when it was announced that today was the Stardew Valley Fair, we panicked as our chest room had become an absolute nightmare of a mess. So we decided to just grab something and run, entrusting Kieran probably wasn't the best shout, as he set our display of 9 prismatic shards up.
We're just richer than you all, is what that fucking says, man. Fucking PA, you daft little twat.
So we tried to distract Lewis as he judged, but we only got 2nd place this year. Not the worst result, to be fair. You just have to feel for Willie at this point though. He turns up year after year but can't beat the 4th place curse. Back to normality then. We were back at Clint's today. I put my watering can in for a steel upgrade. Joe grabbed his gold pan and upgraded his bin to steel.
Bye, Clint. Thanks for the pan.
Then he was off to Ginger Island to grab ancient fruit when he stumbled upon a hooded figure known as Fizz, who was offering 1% of perfection progress for 500,000 gold. But we resisted as we had already paid for the walnuts earlier. So instead he visited Mr. Key, grabbing the Danger in the Deep quest, triggering the dangerous mines from tomorrow. Kieran put his house in for its next big upgrade before he hunted rock crabs, which left me and Matt to work together on replenishing the farm with pumpkins after my earlier fumble, which took us into the evening and on to the next day. We were off to Marnie's throughout the day, dropping her gifts off for her birthday. Matt then carried this on, going on a diamond gifting spree around Pelican Town, stopping in the afternoon to also commission an upgrade on his house, before getting back to it. On the other hand, Kieran and Joe straight off to the mines, aiming to descend to the bottom, finding new enemies and new ores along the way, with Kieran utilising his ladders to hit floor 81 before he totemed home. I wish I had more to say, but I just chopped trees. I was dragging myself to level 10, brick by brick. I visited the travelling merchant this morning for good old times. Nothing useful though, so I did my chores, joined by Matt, who had another day of gifting, before Robin promptly ghosted me.
Where's this Robin? She's not here.
Just when I wanted to upgrade my house. Not on really, is it? Kieran had grown impatient, so he flew to the bottom of the dangerous mines, completing Mr. Key's quest, so he visited Marlon after more hunting, equipping his new outfit where he and Joe had had enough. This storage shed had been massacred, so Joe decided to try and craft the larger chests, but instead he made stone chests. So as the day drew to an end, he finally got some larger chests up and running.
Oh wow, that That is fucking electric.
leaving Kieran to begin organising come tomorrow. The renovation of the storage shed was in full swing. Joe filled the remaining chests with big chests, increasing our storage capabilities by a shit ton. Kieran then spent his day by organising them back into the appropriate chests as we had got careless. Matt did drop in to destroy the picture signs, giving Kieran some text signs as we kept messing them up. Also, quick note, his house did upgrade overnight, so he was living it large, even though all the rooms were bare. After helping him, Matt spent his day giving more gifts out before taking off to the Skull Caverns for more monster slaying goals. Joe, on the other hand, was dancing between the desert, the valley, and Ginger Island, doing nothing of importance, before he cracked some geodes and the 2 remaining artifacts eluded us once again, so he went back to Ginger Island to harvest our ancient fruit. Meanwhile, I'm stuck in purgatory. I either plan and gather cooking ingredients or chop wood, with my only break being swapping an item in for an upgrade at Clint's. But I'll be back soon, don't you worry. Since Matt's house was completed, I took my chance alongside Joe for us to both put our houses in for their upgrades. Back to purgatory for me then. So after some more storage organising to complete it fully, Kieran took off to Robin's too, commissioning a cellar for 100,000 gold, before immediately upgrading his bin to steel. Then he completed every quest he could and gave as many gifts out as he could before going back to the lonely rock crab grind, which to be fair was his version of purgatory. But for me, it got a lot easier as I got all level 10 skills.
Yes, he's done it.
Meaning we had all hit it now, so 1 goal down. But it was short-lived as I needed to gather more cooking items, which was easier with our new storage. Matt and Joe had a nothing day, doing nothing of importance apart from Matt dropping 30,000 gold on a Krobus painting. It must be love. Kieran took his morning to work on our overall smelting and gem stock, as recently in pursuit of Monster Slayer goals, level 10 skills and cooking collections, we'd been neglecting the small stuff. Let's not even talk about our animals. Matt grabbed his steel bin and cracked some geodes where I popped in to do my iridium watering can upgrade, before we tried the curious substance quest again. He was then in the forge, trying to catch Kieran and kill his share of magma sprites. Joe was on the keg duties today, and with the increased amount we had crossed the 1 million gold per harvest amount, and we had plenty of stock to keep going. He also got Clint working, but on his iridium bin this time, before he went back to re-keg the Empire. And with more time on my hands now, I visited the dangerous mines for the first time, and got to work on my own Monster Slayer goals. I sprayed myself down with Monster Musk today and took off with one target, dust sprites, so I went to town farming them for day 191. Matt had a jam-packed day, going from gift giving to visiting Ginger Island to returning to the mines to more gift giving and to more monster hunting. Joe was also in the mines for the first half of his day, opting to switch things up and go to the Skull Caverns for the evening, switching his target up. He wanted more Omni Geodes for trading for artifact troves, trying to complete the museum as fast as we can, so he stayed there all day and night. And with all 3 of us killing monsters, Kieran made it a full house, except today was a monumental one. As midnight approached, he killed his final rock crab.
Is that what I think it is? Yes. Yes. Oh my fucking god.
Being the first to complete the Monster Slayer goals, so he celebrated by purchasing the Galaxy Hammer from Marlon to end day 191. His salad tactic mentioned earlier was beginning to actually look good, as the villagers loved it. But we saved special gifts for George as it was his birthday today, and with all 3 of our house upgrades done overnight, Kieran maxed his house out completely, adding multiple rooms and removing dividers to complete another goal for his route to perfection. Me and Joe were just behind him, adding cellars to both of our houses, before Joe gave Clint his final upgrade of an iridium pan. It will be a triumph when we're all fully upgraded. He could actually go out of business with any luck, but not for now, as Matt dropped his bin in for a gold upgrade, before him and Joe headed back to the Skull Caverns, with Joe collecting his serpent goal. After grabbing my watering can, I was on Ginger Island, soaking up the sun beaming off of Kieran's coconut hat, and picking ancient fruit, before he closed out day 192 by enchanting his new hammer, getting vampiric, then his watering can, getting efficient, and then finally his hoe, getting reaching, returning home to bask in his newly upgraded house. Day 193 started with me admiring my new house, which was very oddly themed.
Why the fuck do I live in like a church? I'm like the priest now. What the fuck?
Yeah, it's fucking well lot of rooms.
No, like look at the front of my house. I got a fucking painted glass window.
But at least my Joja room got bigger, which was nice. But with that out of the way, it was back to the caves, hunting more void spirits. Joe and Matt were also in the mines today, with Matt managing to find the ectoplasm for the community quest. So he rushed down to the wizards on Dorito to drop that off before heading straight back to it, which left Kieran with newfound freedom, which will be more of a curse in the coming weeks as he was now tasked with one of the other big collections we needed. But today he visited Mr. Key, checking on our perfection stat, which was at a respectable 52% before grabbing the key quest, Key's Prismatic Grange, tasking us with collecting 100 of each coloured item. He then purchased the key to the town, which would help with gift giving down the stretch, before he cracked open some mystery boxes, finding the mystery book he needed instantly. So he took a victory lap around the town before turning in for the day. Matt stopped by Clint's for an Iridium bin upgrade before cracking mystery boxes himself, not getting much though, so he opted for a change of scenery, heading to Ginger Island for some relaxing, but mainly for killing some magma sprites in the forge. Same goes with me and Joe too, but we were still back in the mines, so we'll focus on Kieran for now. He gave out some salads before heading to Ginger Island, giving out even more salads to the travelling villagers. He then purchased the Diamond Hunter book from the dwarf for his collection, before returning to the farm and taking off to the mutant bug lair, finally picking up his dark talisman. Only 70 days too late, mate. So he headed home, analysing what we had left to do before calling it a night. Sadly for Kieran, his frolicking and freedom came crashing down on day 195 as he volunteered to start our shipping bin process. For some context, every collection in the game is individually tracked, e.g. crafting and cooking, apart from shipping. Luckily we share that progress, so he got to work shipping whatever we currently had. Also luckily, we already had our own fair whack of stuff we would need, so this should go smoothly. After some more time in the forge, Matt switched it up again, heading to the Skull Caverns for his next victims. But for me and Joe, we remained consistent in the mines, until we were all given some respite at 10 PM, as we entered town slightly less underdressed than last time for Spirit's Eve. So we took it all in, completed the maze, and got angry about not receiving another golden pumpkin.
Now who's the loser?
I won.
No, I got a prize ticket. I didn't get another golden pumpkin.
So we headed home in a sulk to end day 195. I placed my bin in at Clint's, kickstarting the copper upgrade before also switching my focus to the Skull Caverns. Also at Clint's was Joe, and this time he struck gold, finding the golden relic.
Stop giving me this fucking mask. Yes!
You get it?
I fucking got it.
Leaving one final artifact that can only be found in the ground, but there was no time to celebrate as he had more monster slaying to do, so down he went. Matt also completed his mastery tree today, feeling that old man pat him on the shoulder from day one, alongside an advanced fishing rod. He then cracked some geodes and checked his monster slayer progress before diving back in, with dusk sprites being his new target, leaving Kieran, who apart from indulging in an iridium bin, was straight back to it, shipping everything he could find, including stealing some machines to make some items we'd need, also stopping by the quarry to harvest keg and sell our wine collection for another 1,000,000 gold, which took us nicely from the fall into the winter. For Joe, this winter would be a chance to catch the last remaining fish he needed for his collection, but not today. To my pleasure, he spent all day at the mountains as he couldn't catch the fish he needed without rain. I'm enjoying this way too much. With some more machinery built, Kieran kept making strides towards our shipping collection, noting down what we would need to still gather. And I bet you can't guess what I did today. I gifted Sandy a diamond. Oh, and I also spent every waking second killing more monsters. Matt went on a geode cracking spree before he did some smelting so he could craft a farm computer, which he placed in this bare room, ending the first day of winter year 2. After his day off, Matt was back in the caves, completing his dusk sprite goal today, but he stayed there for more slimes and bats. I gave the dwarf a gift before reluctantly heading back inside. When I saw Stardew Valley on our game list, I thought this would be a relaxing experience, but holy shit, I feel like I'm clocking into a shift every day at the minute. But I bought the manual from the dwarf to lighten the blow. I then wasted more time before heading to the Skull Caverns, but I had to get it eventually, deciding to check my goals before my day ended to see some good progress was made. And after grabbing the community quest Cave Patrol, asking us to kill 50 bats, Kieran headed to Ginger Island, harvesting the ancient fruit using his new iridium scythe to full effect, before he brushed past Mr. Keys and remembered the quest he took a while back. So he raced home in a panic and began collecting an array of items of all different colours. With day 200 around the corner, Penny gave me a star drop to help with the constant monster hunting.
Oh, I got a star drop from my spouse. Put that in your fucking script.
But sadly, it wore off quick, as after the usual procrastinating, I had no choice and headed to the Skull Caverns once again. Matt finally found his mystery book at Clint's whilst cracking geodes, so treated Linus to a present, as it was his birthday today, before he once again had to face the mines. As we needed one last artifact and it could only be found mainly in the desert on worm spots, Joe had to put down an old friend. The tree farm from way back in the day had served us well, but it was time for it to depart, so he spent all day demolishing it. Kieran grabbed his used bin and swapped it for a steel pan at Clint's before he was back off to Ginger Island, where he fertilised a mystic tree that he had planted for a shipping item, and learning that hardwood apparently isn't orange, Mr. Key and his stupid rules. So he returned with pumpkins, finishing the job, and grabbing the next quest, Key's Kindness, tasking us with giving out 50 love gifts in 1 week. He then purchased a Galaxy Soul for 40 key gems before returning to head to bed. Day 200. It's an honour to say that we achieved what we set out to do, all reaching level 10 and beyond in all skills, and creating a pretty large wine empire, but perfection was still our ultimate goal, so it was mainly business as usual today. After polishing off the majority of the shipping collection, bar around 7 items, Kieran was off questing today, placing 10 beets in Mayor Lewis's fridge before feeding this skeleton a piece of solar essence, finding the casino card. He then raced straight to this car for the lucky charm before going to the casino, where he took a well-earned rest. Between the 4 of us, we gave out as many loved gifts as we could today, with Joe stopping in the mastery cave to grab his foraging mastery along the way. Matt then really spearheaded our gift giving, with him and Dorito stopping by everyone he could find. And as the sun began to set on Fumble Farm, by now you know damn well where I've been all day. My dream of perfection was still burning bright, so I'll see you on day 201.